What's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to do a full buyer's guide to the Lamborghini Gallardo. Now this at the time was Lamborghini's most successful vehicle ever. It was initially unveiled at the 2003 Geneva Auto Show. It was on sale from a 2004 model year up to a 2014 model year, and production itself was from 2003 to 2013. They overall produced 14,022 units over that decade, and it was their most popular car. When the Huracan took its place in 2015, in just 5 years they produced 14,000. So really cool to see where the Gallardo came from. This was basically Lamborghini's entry-level supercar, and in their mind it was an everyday supercar. It was alongside the Murcielago, which was the V12 supercar at the time, which was an amazing vehicle, and the Gallardo really paved a way for the V10. Now, when you take a look at the engine in the Gallardo, there were two generations. From 2004 to 2008 was technically the first generation car, and then 2009 to 2014 was the second generation. First gen cars utilized a 5-liter naturally aspirated V10. They were all all-wheel drive as well. When you got to the second generation, this now has the 5.2-liter V10, and they even introduced a rear-wheel drive version. The 5.2 is the Audi V10 you see in the R8. The 5-liter was more of a Lamborghini V10. It does sound a lot different and is more strictly a Lamborghini built motor. Now, during the lifespan of the Gallardo, Audi did own the brand the entire time. However, the second gen car is when they really revamped it with more Audi technology in it, just to make it a little bit more modern. Power figures started around 500 horsepower, going all the way up to about 570, depending on the trim. The first generation cars were 500 horsepower. They got into a few special editions at 520, and then the Superleggera got into 530. Starting at the second gen cars, we start around 550 horsepower, and then there's some at 560 and some around the 570. So that's some of the information on the engine that you're gonna find in the Lamborghini Gallardo. Let's move on to all the different editions. So I'm gonna read you a list. These are primarily the ones that were available in the USA, give or take a few, and then the list I'm reading you, honestly, that's about half as many as they produced worldwide. First generation cars, they made a coupe and a spider. They had an SE coupe, which stood for special edition. They had a Nera special, which was gloss black with satin black accents all throughout it, kind of showcasing that Lamborghini could do some crazy customizations. They also unveiled the Superleggera, which of course was the super light version with the Alcantara, the bucket seats, and a lot of carbon fiber. For the second generation cars, they unveiled the rear wheel drive versions, which are all the Dash 2 cars versus the Dash 4 cars. They had, of course, the coupe and the spider. They had a Bicolore, which was a two-tone car, gloss black upper section. They made that in 5 different colors. They had a Tricolore, which had the Italian flag colors for a stripe on the interior as well as the exterior. They had a 50th Anniversario. They made 100 of those celebrating Lamborghini's 50th anniversary. That looked just like my car, but it had the bucket seats, gated manual, and full Alcantara interior. They also made 250 Valentino Balboni editions. He was one of their longest test drivers for the brand. They had the Bianco Rosso. They only made 10 of those. I almost actually bought one. One popped up. It has a red interior celebrating 10 years of Lamborghini in Japan. A little tacky, honestly, for my taste, so I didn't really want to buy that one, but it was cool to see one pop up. They had a gold edition, an Edition Technica. They had the Superleggera, the Squadra Corsa, which they only made 50 of those. They had a Super Trofeo Stradale, which they made 150 of. Then they had the Performante, which was basically the Superleggera convertible. And then a final edition, which had updated bumpers for the 4-wheel drive car. That's a lot of trims. You're probably not gonna remember every single one of them, but they certainly made quite a few to really capitalize on all the crazy special editions that supercar owners seem to like. Primarily, you're gonna find a lot of the LP550-2s and LP560-4s, coupes and convertibles, basically like what I have here for the second gen cars. First gen cars, you're gonna find a lot of the normal ones. Superleggeras you will see here and there as well. So fundamentally, they are all kind of the same car, just little tidbits changed here and there. Interiors and exteriors are just updated. Transmissions, you're gonna have a 6-speed gated manual or the 6-speed e-gear. And then for price ranges, the first gen cars, you're gonna see them around $80,000 to $100,000. And then second gen cars, closer to $120,000 to maybe $160,000. Some of the very special editions will get up to $200,000 to $300,000, especially if it is a 50th Anniversario, which has the gated manual. That is extremely expensive. I was able to film one of those a couple years ago, which was pretty amazing. And then as far as the manuals go for the LP generation, they only made like 60 of them, and those are about twice the price of an E-Gear LP. So prices are truly all over the board. There's a pretty good amount of them out there popping up every now and then. So it's not the hardest car to find. It took me about 6 months to find this. And in the last 6 months, I've seen about 1 or 2 other ones that would have been similar to buy. Looking at reliability and maintenance, honestly, there's not really anything too crazy with these cars. Reliability is pretty good overall. One of the biggest things you're gonna watch out for is the first generation cars, the E-Gear transmissions, particularly the clutches. The original clutches are very wimpy. They might only last 5,000 to 10,000 miles. I would assume at this point, given the first gen cars are all nearly 20 years old, I highly doubt anybody still has an original clutch in those cars. Now, clutch jobs have got a little bit more affordable over the years. It's about a $5,000 job, which really isn't all too crazy. And once you have an updated clutch, a much better one, it should last you maybe 40,000 miles. So not really the worst thing. On the second gen cars, it is significantly updated, and an original clutch should last maybe 40,000. My car has 19,000 miles on it, and back when it had 17,000 miles, the clutch was inspected and it had 70% life remaining. So theoretically, this might even hit 50,000 miles on the original clutch with no issues. If you do general maintenance, oil changes, transmission flushes, things like that on a regular basis, you're not really gonna see anything major. Oil changes, I plan on doing it every single year or 5,000 miles, whichever comes first, which is kind of what I do on every car and is a pretty good rule of thumb on any vehicle. The transmission fluids, differentials, all that stuff seems like a 10-year increment is about all you need to do. So nothing really wild about it. With the clutch and the E-Gear, the biggest thing that could happen with these E-Gear cars is the hydraulic system, maybe the E-Gear pump failing or something like that. I haven't really looked at the pricing of them, but it's not really the worst thing to be able to fix. So that's kind of the only thing you're going to have to look out for. The electronics seem pretty generic. A lot of this is Volkswagen and Audi parts. So honestly, repair parts and things like that aren't really the most expensive, given there is a lot of shared parts between the Volkswagen Group platform. So moving on to interior amenities, what can you expect to actually live with a Gallardo? Now these cars range from 10 to 20 years old at this point. On the first generation cars, primarily 2004s, 2005, you are gonna have a cassette player for the head unit. It is very old school. A lot of people have swapped them out for modern head units that even have Apple CarPlay, but the original stock car will have a cassette player. Some of our younger viewers may not know what that is. It's before CDs, which even CDs are old. So you can tell there is some age in the first gen cars. You will get a nice amount of climate controls, a lot of adjustments. Newer cars like my 2014 has heated seats with like 6 different settings. We also have a front end lift. A lot of the cars will have backup cameras as well. The resolution isn't exactly the best, but you can kind of tell that there at least is something behind you. It may not be specific what's behind you, but you can at least see a little bit. On my car at least, there is a cup holder, which I believe was an option, and it can hold a modern water bottle, which for me is a really big plus. There's even a 12-volt outlet, and on the second gen cars at least, we have garage door buttons, which is insane. I did not know this car would have that. For audio and multimedia, there is a built-in head unit with navigation. It is kind of the typical older school Audi stuff that you have seen maybe 10 years ago on Audis. So a lot of the climate controls, the infotainment is literally Audi stuff. Same stuff that's in my brother's Audi R8. Now, a cool thing for the newer generation cars, in the middle, you're gonna see CD players in a lot of them. Mine, in the glove box, actually has a special plug, and I can plug in my iPhone. So I have a lightning port to the port that is inside this car, and I can listen to modern music in this car. The speaker system in the first generation cars, from what owners have said, is pretty bad, and a lot of people will upgrade the audio. I don't have any issues in my 2014. I think the speakers sound fine. I hardly listen to music in this car, only if I'm on the highway just cruising, and I listen to it kind of quiet because the V10 makes an amazing soundtrack. But the fact that throughout the years you had cassettes to CD players to plugs where you can plug in old iPods and even modern iPhones, I think is a pretty cool touch. Aside from that, you do have normal climate control that works very well. The AC works nice, the heat works nice as well, and the shelf behind you does offer a pretty good amount of space with a net as well to fit some items. The first gen cars are going to start showing their age a little bit, with some of the leathers might having some wrinkles and things like that, depending on how well they were taken care of. In my car, you know, luckily this is a very well taken care of car. The leathers in here look amazing, and this still looks like a pretty darn new car if you at least don't look at some of the old school screens, which can start showing the age a little bit, but it adds to the character, of course, with a car like this. And then last thing to go over is just some basic running costs. Obviously, the maintenance reliability standpoint really isn't the worst. I just did an oil change with cabin air filters. It was less than 150 bucks. And honestly, all the fluid changes, maybe 100 to 200 if you do them yourself. If you go to a Lamborghini dealer, of course, it'll be a little bit more expensive. Keeping the car on the road, I'm paying 1,500 bucks a year to insure this car with full coverage. It's really not the worst. On top of that, registration, I'm paying about 1,500 bucks a year to keep this on the road itself. So budget maybe 3 to 5 grand a year for just taxes, fees, things like that to keep the car on the road. Now, as far as any drawbacks, obviously you're in a very old school car, so there are some things. It doesn't have any cruise control, which long distances you might have to use your left leg, and that is basically cruise control in this car. On top of that, if you are in the normal drive mode, like in automatic, the transmission is very lazy. We are in 6th gear right now, going about 45. If I give it some gas, it didn't even really downshift or anything, so it's not a car that responds quickly if you're letting it do its thing. This is a car you need to drive it like a manual. So sport mode and manual mode, and you're always being in control of the gear changes. That's when you're gonna get the fun. So that is just the one thing you gotta keep in mind. Obviously the tech isn't the most up to date, however, it's plenty tech that I need in a car. I can listen to music when needed, and that's literally about all I could ask for in a car. So not really the biggest drawback, it's just a car that you need to know what you're getting. Don't expect this to be a lightning quick dual clutch transmission that responds to you perfectly. You need to drive it as if it were a standard manual transmission. Aside from that, that's the biggest thing that some people complain about. They don't like the E-gear for those regards, but if you think about it as a stick shift, it kind of changes your whole perspective, and I like the fun factor. A gated manual, you can find them on a 1st gen car. 2nd gen car, you're in a completely different budget to where it's not exactly affordable for most Gallardo owners like myself, but the E-gear I think is a blast to use. It's old school and yet kind of gives you a good blend of everything. But the way this car drives, it is always a special thing to be behind the wheel. There's never a boring time to drive this car. I love the mechanical single clutch transmission. It's so old school. I mean, cars do not operate like this at all. It is really cool. Brakes themselves, they do work really well. You just gotta push them hard. But it is fun. It is always a smile. If you want a unique experience, the Gallardo is it. Just a blast. And to be honest, this car is a lot faster than I expected, especially coming from my old GTR. This car really is a lot quicker. It's plenty fast enough. 0 to 60 is like mid 3 seconds. I mean, this thing gets up to illegal speeds without even thinking it. It truly is just an absolute blast to drive. So to end the video, do I recommend buying a Lamborghini Gallardo? Absolutely. It is a blast to drive. There is literally no car that drives like this. The Ferrari F430 would be the closest thing. This is faster, this is more raw, and honestly, it's more modern as well. So I personally think this is one of the coolest cars for the money, by far an amazing car to own. I think the only next step up from this car is the Aventador to get that same wild drama, but on a whole new level. Other things to look out for, honestly, just general things. Make sure your car, if you're looking to buy one, is in good shape. Obviously, do a walk around, have it inspected by possibly a certified Lamborghini dealership or a performance shop that specializes in European cars like this. Just kind of like what you would do on any car that you're buying pre-owned. Obviously, these cars are 10 to 20 years old, so check its history out, see what kind of maintenance it has had done to it. you're not really gonna find one that has perfect maintenance. I know it's kind of that stereotype with exotic cars. You wanna buy one that has this amazing record every single year. These cars, a lot of them are maintained themselves. Some of them don't get that well taken care of. So you kind of gotta see what's out there. Of the cars that I was seriously looking to buy, none of them had perfect annual records. They were kind of hit or miss, some of them worse than others. Mine wasn't too bad. 2,000 miles before I bought it, which happened to be about 2 years ago, it did have a servicing done to it. So while I like to see something every single year, this one at least had a service within the last 1,000 miles. And looking at its original Carfax, the first 2,000 miles, it had an oil change and the servicing done at Lamborghini, and it was maintained by Lamborghini for the first 10,000 miles. So you definitely have a lot to look at. You can't get a perfect one. They're not gonna be like that. So you kind of gotta go with what you find and just do your own due diligence, make sure you find a good car. Overall, these cars are pretty good. So as long as you get one that is in pretty good condition, pretty good maintenance history, when you buy it, do a nice once over, and you should really enjoy your Gallardo. So there is my buyer's guide to the Lamborghini Gallardo. I like the second gens. I like the updates they have. The first gens, of course, are pretty darn affordable for being an Italian supercar. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next video.